Good morning, folks. My name is Matthew Ozuna, and we'll go ahead and get started. I'm the Destination Development Manager here at State of Washington Tourism, SWT. I'll moderate today's webinar. You'll see me quite a bit, but you'll also see my supervisor, Mike Moe. He's working on the back end. He'll come at the end of the webinar to help us with Q&A. Say hello, let us know where you're coming in from or zooming in from. You can use the chat or the Q&A for those things as well. We'll get to your questions in the chat or the Q&A at the end, near the end of the webinar, but feel free to chime in at any point during the webinar when the panelists are speaking. So let's get started. Let's just jump in and talk more about the Skillshop series, as well as this particular webinar on tourism passports and trails. The Tourism Skillshop is one of many industry educational programs from State of Washington Tourism, SWT. This webinar series will engage with colleagues across the tourism sector and broaden their industry knowledge, skills, and network. Each webinar will highlight a specific issue or skill for tourism professionals to ponder and to discuss with industry experts like the three we have on our webinar today. State of Washington Tourism will host live webinars of the Tourism Skillshop on the third or fourth Thursday of every month from 10 a.m. to 11. These webinars are free and open to the public and to other tourism stakeholders. We have some friends from Oregon on the webinar today. Folks from Oregon, Idaho, around the world have access to these webinars on the SWT YouTube channel. The webinars will be recorded and shared with registrants and other users. I said you can access that on the YouTube channel. For more information on the Tourism Skillshop and other updates, visit the SWT website, sign up for the industry update newsletter, and follow SWT on LinkedIn. Tourism stakeholders may also join the SWT Facebook group for further discussion on topics related to the Tourism Skillshop and other industry news, issues, and events. So let's talk about today's webinar. We're going to focus on tourism passports and trails, including product development, business partnerships, promotion, as well as visitor needs and expectations. I think that's going to be especially relevant in terms of the Bend Ale Trail. Guest speakers for this webinar include Kristin Dahl, founder of and CEO of Crosscurrent Collective, Nate Wyeth, Vice President of Marketing and Communications at Visit Bend down in Oregon, and Sandy Ward, President and CEO of Visit Bellingham, Whatcom County here in Washington State. Panelists, thanks for joining us today. I'm excited to learn more about these passports and trails. I hope our attendees are excited as I am. And Kristin, let's start off with you. We're going to talk about trails in Oregon. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and the work you've done in Oregon in relation to these trails?
Sorry, sounds good. I'm just going to get a little PowerPoint here started. If you could give me a little thumbs up if that looks okay on your end.
Yep,
okay,
it looks
great.
good to me.
Awesome. Okay, well, good morning, everybody. I'm Kristin, as Matt introduced. Yes, I started my own consultancy in destination development about 2 years ago, but prior to that, I worked for Travel Oregon and led the state's destination development department. And so some of the experiences I'll share with you today around trails really stem from that, of really shepherding some fairly large scale programs that supported communities with trail development across the state of Oregon, now that are even moving on into Washington. So I'll share a little bit of that. I'm super thrilled to be able to share about this topic. I think these types of projects bring together two of the most powerful concepts in my mind, one of which is a physical trail, maybe a line on a map, or actually something that has infrastructure already, kind of the hardscape, that, that backbone, and then pulling it together with story. And really finding out what that meaning is of that place and bringing that story to the forefront so that everyone can experience it, whether you live there or whether you're visiting. And I think what brings to my mind when I think of trail plus story equals experience is the creation of the Oregon Timber Trail, which I'm not going to talk a lot about, but it's that unique ability to really see the infrastructure and line on a map, realize there's a story to tell, and then target the development to really meet the needs of one particular audience, and in this case, mountain bikers. A concept that wasn't around before 2015, but after 2015, this type of a trail plus experience really gained traction, and now is a 669-mile trail that runs the length of the state and really provides inspiration to get out into some pretty remote places around the state. So I'm going to kind of start with the end, strengths and weaknesses, or not weaknesses, but things to think about when you're doing a trail and a passport. Really, you know, it's a brilliant concept for attracting visitation, encouraging longer stays, and providing people kind of a window into that local experience. It can really motivate travel, especially if you focus on developing a signature experience. If you think about places like the Machu Picchu or Camino de Santiago, you can really turn something into a true signature experience. Elevates and unites small and medium-sized businesses that can benefit from the extra marketing lift and benefit from collaboration. Again, it provides access to that local experience and that local culture. There's also an opportunity to educate within a trail system. It can also create a finer level of detail that can captivate someone and inspire them to stay longer. And it really supports goals around destination management, where you can actually cultivate new experiences that help potentially draw visitation away from maybe your high-use hotspots or sensitive areas. A few things to consider if you're thinking about doing one of these. You know, they're powerful tools, but they require a lot of work. And one important thing is to really make sure you have a destination lead or a local proponent. You need somebody at the local scale who's really driving this trail over time, whether it's an organization or maybe an individual within an organization. There's a lot of work on these things. Listings, site details have to be kept updated. Hard copy maps have to be reproduced and distributed. And then ongoing marketing is really essential. Beyond that, I just want to say consistency is key. And that's everything from creating a brand that creates consistency across your thematic visitor experience, to making sure that business hours of those places that people can visit are consistent, ongoing marketing and promotion. You just have to remember that it's consistency over time. And you might have a lot of short-term wins with a concept like this. It sounds very easy to put together a trail, and it is at the front end. It's fairly simple and low cost, but they're really long-term investments. And just to remember that, you know, a trail takes time to improve. So, and you can make those changes incrementally over time. So I'll talk just very briefly, because we just have a few minutes opening here. Two of our big programs, signature programs now for the state of Oregon really, are the Oregon Food Trails and the Oregon Scenic Bikeways, both of which have a pretty long and storied past. The Scenic Bikeways were actually an idea that germinated in the early 2000s by the nonprofit Cycle Oregon that was running trips all over the state. And they said, oh my gosh, if we could just highlight the best of the best riding across the state and share that with people beyond just our you know, curated ride, we think this can really drive economic impact in these small rural communities. And so fast forward, there was actually, the program was adopted and put into Oregon statute in 2007. They created a statewide steering committee in 2008, and the first route in the Willamette Valley was designated in 2009. Over the course of the next 10 years, communities applied to the program, suggested their routes, the committee reviewed the routes, created the standards, very high standards, and then adopted 17 routes into the system. Now, this is, of course, a big, you know, this is evolution over time, and that's why I say don't get discouraged. It just takes many years to bring these things to full fruition. These type of a route, once adopted into the system, were awarded really a marketing platform where each of these routes was kind of curated for their story, brand was created, map route details, so that this actually reaches out directly to that road cyclist who needs to plan their trip, all the way down to cue sheets. And then working in partnership with a platform called Ride with GPS, all of these routes then were also brought into a platform that cyclists already use. So it's very easy to go in and find these routes. And these routes really help connect all kinds of other experiences and businesses along the route, including a whole system of bike-friendly businesses. So alongside the route development in this realm for road cycling, another program was underway called Bike-Friendly Businesses. So if you wanted to be stand out a little bit from everyone else along that route and really be on the map, you could become a bike-friendly business and learn how to host and how to really create that hospitality experience for visitors on bikes when they come. I think I'll skip the videos for 2 minutes, but looking at Matt.
You still have plenty of time.
Okay, all right, we'll do it. It's less than 2 minutes, so we'll see. Let me know if you can hear everything okay. I'm not hearing it at all.
Yep, no sound for me.
Great.
Can you hear anything, Matt?
The energy food is
Yes, I do now.
Okay, there we go.
in Oregon. We know that a weekend with the girls is equal parts grit and glamour. The energy food is better when it's less goo and more gourmet. And that good, clean sun means getting a little dirt under your nails. Come choose your own adventure on the Sisters to Smith Rock Scenic Bikeway. Oregon has some of the most beautiful places in the nation for biking, and it's also one of the most bike-friendly states. That's why it's the first state in the country to have official scenic bikeways. The Sisters to Smith Rock Scenic Bikeway is a 37-mile ride across the high desert of Central Oregon. It begins in the bike-friendly town of Sisters and meanders along country roads lined with sagebrush and ponderosa pines. It crosses the iconic Deschutes River, passes through the small town of Terrebonne, and ends in the climbing and hiking paradise of Smith Rock State Park. This is Central Oregon, where cycling, climbing, camping, and craft beer all come together. So if you're looking for a new outdoor playground, come explore the Sisters to Smith Rock Scenic Bikeway.
Okay, so I think what's fascinating about this and other trail programs is just that you're taking really a line on a map and creating a whole experience out of it. And of course, that takes a lot of time and energy. I sat on the committee that actually reviewed all of the applications, and that meant we actually had to go out and ride every single mile that was proposed. And so I rode over 1,000 miles testing out routes around the state. Yeah, it was pretty incredible. But I mean, a lot of care and thought went into which routes were selected and what that end experience would actually be like. So I will just share a tiny bit about the Oregon Food Trails program. This one has a very different genesis. This is really supporting communities with developing their local food system by telling the stories of what foods are grown and produced and offered through all kinds of opportunities like farm stands and going out with commercial fishermen, et cetera. The idea is to really take and elevate all of these little local growers and producers and really find what those experiences are that they can offer. So sometimes it's already an existing place like a winery that has a tasting room, and other times it might just be like a small lavender farm and maybe they're actually starting a new business and they want to create an experience. And so a trail of this nature can really help catalyze small business development and help hook small businesses into really kind of a marketing platform that really can help share what they're doing and also bring visitors on site. Now, the genesis might not be super relevant, but really where this came from was that there were different kinds of farm and agritourism trails happening all over the state, and particularly this was elevated through the Oregon Tourism Studio and the agritourism workshop specifically, where many regions across the state said, we really want to put some muscle behind supporting this part of our economy and this part of our community. So the Oregon Food Trails program was branded and adopted in 2016. And since then, there's been the creation of about 11 trails across the state of Oregon that now highlight over 500 different businesses where you can experience the food system, the food product, fish, seafood, you name it. And I do want to give a call out to the Gorge Food Trails. Most recently, there's been the creation of the West and East Gorge Food Trail, and those are spanning both sides of the Columbia River Gorge. So this is both an Oregon and a Washington food trail project. I think I'll just kind of scoot along through these. There's all kinds of marketing assistance that goes along with creating a trail. But what I really want to point out is that there are very clear standards on what you must be offering or doing to be on the food trail. So I really want to make this point that creating standards for your trail it's really the heart and the essence. Without some kind of standards of who you're promoting and who's on it and what they're doing, you kind of stand the chance of putting everybody on it, and then you kind of lose the theme, or you might lose the quality of what you're actually trying to create. I will skip the video just in the essence of time, and a few things just to close out with, a few tips as you're getting started. Really consider your destination's comparative advantage. What is it that you have to offer here that maybe nobody else does? Consider, what would actually support local economic development beyond just the visitor industry, right? Because of course, yes, there's the visitor industry of hotels and whatnot, but really, like, what are the other economic systems within your community that you can help augment through visitation? And then what story are you really trying to tell? Get clear on that. Work collaboratively with stakeholders that are responsible for that route or trail. So that might be a mix of public land managers or transportation authorities, and also, of course, the private sector. So if you're creating a trail, it's really your job to bring all of those folks together for the planning, and then, of course, ongoing maintenance. Find local leadership, as I mentioned, that's super critical. Create standards, make it exceptional. Don't water it down. Don't put a line on a map and put everything on it, or you pretty soon it's just a visitor guidebook, right? And then don't give up. Keep inviting people back to the table. Keep refining it, add new things, invite new businesses, upgrade the logo, whatever it is. Every year you're going to find something new to do. And just remember to engage those stakeholders on the trail, year after year. So last point here, remember to engage your audience, that they can give back to the destination. So as we're all thinking about regenerative travel, how do you really engage that audience to give back? And I mentioned the Oregon Timber Trail, and I just have to look at this statistic, but they have logged in over 10,000 hours of volunteer time working on that trail since they launched in 2017, valued around $300,000. So they're continually making improvements to the system. And with that, I'm going to stop there and hand it back to Matt, and I'm happy to take any questions during the open time.
Oh, thanks, Kristin. Yeah, you hit on those last points were awesome. I have a few questions for you. I'll save them to the end, especially on the points that you just made. But Nate and Kristin, you mentioned Smith Rock. Nate, let's turn it over to you. That's not too far away from Bend, Oregon. And let's dive into your ale trail, one of the oldest and kind of, I think, the best in the business. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about your ale trail and how it was developed and how it's improved over the years?
Yeah, and hopefully it's funny, I was looking at my notes as Kristin was presenting, and there's a lot of overlap, which is great. I think some commonality and some takeaways will be helpful for everybody involved. So the Bend Ale Trail was honestly born out of this idea when a bunch of folks were sitting on a chairlift back in 2010 in Mount Bachelor, talking about how amazing Bend's sort of growing beer scene was at the time, and talking about how these breweries make good beer, but they don't know how to market. And there were no real beer trails at the time. There were no trails. There wasn't gamification. The passport thing hadn't really taken off yet. And we had this idea to get 6 of those Bend breweries in a room and ask them if they would be interested in us developing, promoting, and marketing this beer trail, which we ended up calling the Bend Ale Trail. And like I said, that was over 10 years ago now, and we launched that in June 2010, and it's been growing ever since. Kristin mentioned that it's important to keep it going, right? Keep doing something new every year. And so we built it with just 3 main qualifiers for folks to be able to be on the Bend Ale Trail. They have to brew beer in Bend. They have to be open a set number of days consistently. To provide a quality visitor experience. Basically, you don't want to show up and, oh, this brewery's closed and we can't go in and taste their beer. And the other thing is that they have to have been in operation for a year prior to them being added to the Bend Ale Trail. And that just shows us that they can exist on their own and that they, again, will provide that quality visitor experience.
And so Nate, so it's important to mention that these are not paid members. of
Yes.
the destination organization. It's not based on a membership model. Correct?
Yeah. And I'll also mention that Visit Bend is a non-membership organization as well. And so it was important to us that, again, to provide this quality, consistent experience for the Bendale Trail, which is important for any trail that you're developing. You want to make sure that folks, you're creating something that folks want to be a part of and that they want to be engaged in. And that goes for both stakeholders as well as your consumers or your visitors. And so it was important to us to make sure that we were, when we're looking at equity and inclusion of folks, not only from our visitor standpoint, but those being involved, that there is no barrier to entry, that if this little small brewery is making really good beer, we want everybody to know about it. And they might not have the means on their own to tell people about it. But at the same time, we know folks like the Behemoths, the Deschutes, and the 10 Barrels, that they should be part of it as well, because they're a lot of what draw people in, right? And so for us, it was really important that as we continue to grow the Bendale Trail, which by 2019 was 24 breweries strong, it became something that was almost too big for its own good. And over the years, we had seen completion rates rise from that first year, only about 100 folks, to now where we're seeing around 20,000 folks a year complete the Bendale Trail. We're printing 100,000 passports a year. We've got tens of thousands of app users now, and we've developed tools along the way to make sure that the user experience is consistently improving as the Bendale Trail grows up.
So yeah, Nate, let's talk about that very briefly. You mentioned print passports. Let's dive into print versus digital really quickly.
Yeah, so we, when we first kicked off the Bendale Trail, it was all about having a print piece. And that print piece was something that was a 4x9 standard rack card size that hopefully everybody has room for in their visitor center, and rack cards, card racks at breweries and at all of these establishments, so that we can help distribute this and get it in front of folks, whether they're coming into our visitor center or they're visiting a brewery. And that was a great program, because what it allowed us to do is have the passport as part of this printed piece and a fold out map. So, you would walk around downtown and you would see folks standing on the corner with this big Bendale Trail map trying to figure out where to go or where the next brewery was. And it was just really great to see as that program grew up. And a few years in, we developed our first native app for iOS and Android. And that was, as apps were really starting to kind of take off, and that was really great. But what we found was that there were struggles. We were kind of drinking from a fire hose at the time, right? It was, you should build an app. Everybody was telling you got to do all this stuff. And what we realized as we grew is that you don't have to do all the things. You should focus on doing what you can do and what you can do well. And I think that's an important takeaway for everybody as they're considering maybe starting a trail of their own. And so I would say between 2014 and 2017, we didn't have an app present. There was no digital presence besides what was on the website. And that allowed us to kind of think about what the next version of the Bendale Trail should look like. And so we rebranded the Bendale Trail right when COVID started, which was great timing. And then everything shut down, but that really gave us a time to just think about what we want the Bendale Trail to be going into its second decade. And we ultimately went back to what a standard passport looks like. So this is our new passport, and it's a printed piece that's really high quality. And for the first time ever, we're charging folks for the passport. So it's a $5 purchase they can buy. But if somebody doesn't want to buy a passport at the visitor center, they can utilize our free web app, which is based on WordPress, and it just lives on the website, so they don't have to install an app. And it's very user friendly, and we're not collecting a ton of data, but just enough to make sure that we are improving that user experience along the way. And the management is really a lot more hands off than having an app that you constantly have to update and to app stores and go through that sort of stuff. So there's just been a lot of user experience lessons that we have learned along the way to make this something that folks want to continually be a part of. Kristin also mentioned just that continuing to do new things. So every year we only update the Bendale Trail on an annual basis, and we do it every June. And at that time, that's when we have those conversations with those breweries who have reached out to us throughout the year and said, hey, I want to be part of this. What do I need to do? And that's when we update the app also. So there is some concern, obviously, with especially in this tumultuous business world that we live in now, where you might have businesses going out of business or closing temporarily or hours changing, things like that. And that has posed to problems a little bit, but what we've done is we've significantly shrunk our print runs of our passports so that we can be more adaptive if we do need to make those changes.
Good idea.
Yeah. But adding those new breweries keeps people coming back, right? Part of that destination development plan is, okay, we got them here once. How do we get them coming back? And that's in line with a lot of our goals as an organization too. So keep them wanting more. When we launched the new version of the Bend Ale Trail last year, we also introduced what we call perfect pairings, which are activities that go along with and occur in the region of where the breweries that they might be visiting are. So we separated the Bend Ale Trail into 7 different territories, regional territories throughout Bend and Central Oregon now, and that allows people to make it more bite-sized. It falls in line with a lot of
yeah, bite-sized, but also kind of complementary and probably more safe, or excuse me, safer. You know, if you're drinking, you should probably eat something too, right? Stop at this restaurant, what have you. Okay. Yeah,
it falls in line with a lot of our responsibility and sustainability efforts that we're after, right? And in addition to that, we've also strengthened our relationship with a lot of these local nonprofits who are doing work around stewardship and sustainability, and so that we can integrate that in those marketing efforts and messaging efforts, as well as give back efforts into the Bend Ale Trail. So it's really taking things a step further and making sure that the Bend Ale Trail has a deeper impact than just sort of patting the pockets of the breweries.
And I think it's important to note too, Nate, I don't think you've said this so far, but you can still participate on the trail and with the passport and not have to buy anything from a brewery, correct?
Yeah. And that's, again, it goes back to another responsibility thing. And honestly, like, it was born out of a concern for liability for the organization, right? That if we were encouraging folks to go out and drink and then potentially hop in their car and drive to the next brewery, we wanted to make sure that there is no purchase required. And ultimately what happens is most folks will go in, and they'll go in people do this as a group, right? So they'll go in and they'll get a taster tray and they'll split the taster tray between a group of folks or something. But we also just recently launched a designated driver program that has its own separate passport that's in the back of our Bend Ale Trail passport here. And they only have to get 5 stamps at any of the participating breweries, distilleries, wineries, anything like that. And they get a different prize, which is actually a more premium prize than what those who drink get. So it's an encouragement to just be responsible, choose somebody who's going to get you around town safe, and ultimately they will be rewarded for their good behavior as well.
And I think that's great. I think that's a good management of visitor expectations, but also kind of expectations from residents to be like, I don't want a bunch of drunk tourists in my town that might lead to other issues. So I think that's good all the way around. Good point there. Do we have time to talk about KPIs and ROI, Nate, with this?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to dive into that, just as a numbers guy myself who geeks out on this kind of stuff. You know,
me too.
Ultimately, as a destination management and marketing organization, we're within that economic development realm. And so we have to be beholden to making sure that we are producing economic activity in our town. And that's why the Bend Ale Trail exists. So based on survey data, so what we do is we've got the app that collects data, like I mentioned, but we also have folks take surveys. The only place they can redeem their passports, digital or print, are at the Bend Visitor Center. And when they do that, they fill out a survey. It's a pretty quick survey, but we ask them simple questions about their party size, some demographic information, where they live, how long they're here, but also how much money they're spending on various categories, everything from beer to shopping to dining, entertainment, and lodging. And so what we found is that the average participant spends just around $1,200 when they come to Bend and when they do the Bend Ale Trail. And that's across everything, like I said, from lodging, which we all know is getting more expensive, to dining. And folks love to shop in Oregon because we don't have sales tax.
Yeah, that's right.
And so all of that adds up to, all of a sudden it's pretty easy to spend $1,200 on a weekend trip to Bend, right? But what that means is that when we have 20,000 folks a year doing that, that's a lot of money being pumped into our economy because of, or as part of, the Bend Ale Trail, right? What we know is, based on visitor intercept surveys that we do with RRC, who's a research firm out of Colorado, that about 65% of all visitors who come to Bend for a vacation visit a brewery during their vacation. Wow. And so we have lots of advertising and promotional materials for the Bend Ale Trail available at every brewery that's part of the Bend Ale Trail, which is almost every brewery in Bend now. And that's great because folks can pick up that rack card, they can scan the QR code, and all of a sudden they're in the app and they're getting their first passport stamped and they're on their way. And it's a really great experience. And, you know, this is, we keep seeing, like I said, we keep introducing folks to new reasons to want to do the Bend Trail, right? Come back and do it again. You may have tackled a couple territories, but your passport's not complete yet, so come back for another weekend. And so what we've actually seen is about a 15 percentage point increase in the number of folks doing the Bend Trail just since 2016. As we're tracking this. So we still, we still see, you know, it's gone from 49% to now 65%. And we're also seeing a shift where, while we do have a lot of locals, and Kristin touched on this too, but we do have a lot of locals who are participating in the Bend Trail. What we're seeing now is a shift towards more out-of-state visitors who are doing the Bend Trail than actually in-state visitors from a percentage basis. And so that's been fascinating to see, but it also helps to direct our marketing team into how we're promoting the Bend Trail along the way.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Nate. I'll probably have a few more questions for you, but I'll save those to the end. I appreciate that. Was awesome. I also love Bend. I love beer. I've been there many times, and I think you do a great job. So moving from Visit Bend, we'll go to Washington now. And Sandy Ward. Sandy's has a passport and trail system that's relatively new, correct, Sandy? It's only since it was kind of a byproduct of the pandemic, correct?
That's right. Good morning, everybody. So yeah, we're really new to this passport and trails idea. So I'm going to share a few things with you, things we've learned along the way, and let's see where we go. So during the pandemic, we decided that we needed to help our arts and culture businesses. And so we developed what we call the Culture Crawl, which features museums, art galleries, and then we added a 49th parallel ports pass. These are the areas of Whatcom County that border Canada. So we have Point Roberts and Blaine and places that we could get to by water, because I don't know if you remember or not, but the Canadian border was closed and it made it really hard on those communities that were located close to the border. And then our newest trail is called the Farm to Table Trail. So these are powered by Bandwango. Bandwango is not an app, but it is a platform. And so you don't have to download an app or anything, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about what we've learned and how we're taking advantage of that platform. So we launched our Culture Crawl in October of 21. We launched the Parallel Ports Pass in May of this year, and we just launched the Farm to Table Trails Pass in July. So all the passes are listed on a prominent landing page, and we push this page out to tease the visitors to download and experience all the passes. And then we circulate press releases on social media, and then we have standard emails that go out to people that have checked into one location that remind them to keep checking in at more locations, because we have them gamified so you can win prizes. We're also planning to include these passes in our sales efforts at consumer and travel industry trade shows. So this is how the passes work. You get your pass, so that's a mobile exclusive passport, collection of curated experiences, and then it's instantly delivered to your phone via text and email. It's ready for use immediately, no app to download. Can be saved to your phone's home screen for easy one-tap access, and then you redeem. So when you visit a participating business, you present your phone to the attendant to redeem your discounts, and that's where you check in. And I have to say, in Bend, 20,000 people showing up at your visitor center to get their passports, to their prizes redeemed and give you a survey is impressive. So got to say thank you for that. We do have collateral that we have developed to show at participating locations, which encourages people to download the Quest, and it helps them discover other passes. So we have a QR code, and they can check and download that to their phone right there. We discovered that when a person shows up at, let's say, the Spark Museum, who's on the Culture Pass, and they didn't really know that there was a pass, this gives them the ability to download it and discover more things, which hopefully keeps them either going around town for more experiences. It helps them also plan another trip to come back. So these are lessons that we've learned. There's a lot of pre-prep before a pass goes live. It can be time consuming, so you have to contact the venues, upload the venues, meetings with Bandwango, creating assets, design, prizes, qualifications for entry. So there's a lot of pre-prep work that goes into the pass. Then there's the work after the pass is launched. So I heard others talk about, the follow-up. It's easy to build a passport or a trail, but then it's keeping it going. So there's work after the pass is launched. So marketing it in many places, creating videos, press releases, follow-up mail lists, that kind of thing. So there is work involved. You should have critical mass of participants and businesses willing to take part in the pass. I heard others talk about you don't want too many on the pass, but you do have to have enough to be on a pass to make it happen. We did have to postpone one of our passes, the 49th Parallel Ports Pass, because when the border opened, many of those businesses were overwhelmed by visitation. And even prior to that, we had people coming up, let's say to Blaine from Seattle and other places that may never have stopped in Blaine before, just because they couldn't get across the border. So they were not ready at the time, but this summer we were able to launch that pass. And then Bandwango is the platform we work with. They're very responsive. It takes somebody on your team, though, to facilitate and navigate the intricacies. And it doesn't have to be a person's full-time job, but somebody in your organization should be assigned to look after the passes. Bandwango is always improving their product. So, and I'm not making a pitch for Bandwango. I'm just telling you that's the platform that we use. So they worked on creating new sections so that organizations like ours can do a lot of things on their own, so that you don't have to spend as much time having Bandwango do that. And then we're working on more videos for each pass to push out on social media. And we might also add more passes in the future. Measuring ROI, we drive traffic into local businesses, community buy-in, and the first party data that we receive. And we do retarget people. So we like this platform because we're able to track the data. So we sign people up that opt into our visitor newsletter to receive future newsletters. We also retarget those people within Bandwango. So if a person signs up and checks in, we tease them on email to either keep going using the pass, or only 4 more check-ins and you'll win a prize, for example. This is some data that we have from the passes, and you'll see that the bulk of the people who use and have downloaded our passes are from the state of Washington, but you'll also see that California, British Columbia, Oregon, Texas, you see a lot of other places have downloaded the passes as well. So it's a great platform for us to track this data. We do have a tap trail pass, which is similar to Ben's Ale Trail. It's a paper passport. They have not gone digital, but still offers a map to pick up. We carry them, and it just says pick up your trap mail pass at 38 locations. So we like that, and we're promoting that. But Bandwango allows organizations to build 4 passes a year. You can have up to 8 passes going at any given time, and if a new pass is added, then one actually has to be retired. And I will share with you that our investment is around $1,200 a month.
It's $1,200 a month, but with help from State of Washington Tourism, correct, Sandy?
Correct.
And folks, especially the Washington folks, are if interested in a contract with Bandwango and a passport, reach out to me or Mike, and we can give you more information about a discount with the state tourism.
Yeah, so I just wanted to show you sort of how we promote these. So I will share just one last video in closing.
Bellingham and Whatcom County may be famous for their mountains, seas, and trees, but we are way more than just that. The peak of the Pacific Northwest is also the land of the foodie. With over 1,700 farms, Whatcom County ranks in the top 3% of farm counties in the entire United States. So when you're here, it's hard not to eat farm-to-table food. To help you make the most of your foodie journey while visiting, we've created an interactive farm-to-table trail pass. Use it to find the best local restaurants, farms, markets, and many more fresh spots around Whatcom County. Using the Farm to Trail Pass is easy and free. First, head to bellingham.org/quest to download the pass onto your smartphone. Pull up the pass to view an ever-changing list of participating farm-to-table spots across Bellingham and Whatcom County. Check in when you arrive at each destination to unlock discounts, promotions, and prizes. From freshly made local cheese to you-pick berries, organic produce, amazing markets, hip restaurants, and everything in between, your inner foodie will love exploring all that Whatcom County has to offer.
So that's the way we've created some videos to share so that it helps people learn how to use the pass and then also gives them an idea of what's in store. So we've really enjoyed working with Bandwango, and I think others might as well.
And they do take over a lot of the customer service aspect, direct customer service. I mean, you're not kind of inundated with technical issues or, hey, I didn't get my prize, stuff like that, Sandy.
Yeah, so we make sure people get their prizes, and we have it gamified now, but looking toward the future, we might not have to gamify things. I mean, it might be as simple as a badge or a sticker or something that you get when you complete the trail. But it does give people an opportunity to come back and do it again, or to share with their friends.
And I think that's a great segue, Sandy. I have a question here from Ryan Bush. Sandy mentioned using prizes and giveaways. What kind of things do you give away? I hope they're local items, right? And are there better prizes that work better than others? I'll stop with that and I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so for us, we went with the easy prizes that we could actually send to people if they couldn't come in and pick them up. So there are things that can be mailed. Mostly there are discounts available. So if you show, you check in at a particular facility, you might get a free appetizer, or you might get 10% off or 15% off, or a free coffee. So most of it is discounts, but we do have some, like on our Culture Crawl Pass, we have a nice piece of artwork by Gretchen Leggett, who did a mural in Bellingham. And so it's a piece of her mural that we're able to give people. So it's local things.
Local things. And Kristin, that reminds me of the patch, the bike trail patch in Oregon. That was an incentive for participation too. And I assume people that just love to bike, that's kind of the draw as well. But were there any other incentives, discounts to get people on that trail?
No, you're talking about the scenic bikeways, I think.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Just your broad suite of marketing efforts and promoting it locally. Having it show up everywhere, whether it's the statewide marketing campaigns, and now of course social media. A lot of these like food trails have their own Instagram account. But no, haven't used a lot of incentives. It's I think sometimes when you create an experience that meets a demand, it just becomes something that's sought after.
Interesting. And Nate, in Bend, is there a tier system of prizes? I go to 10 breweries, I get X, and if I go to 20, I get Y. And if I'm like a brew master lover, I get to like hang out with a brew master and get to make my own beer and call it whatever I want. I mean, is there something like that?
Yeah, sort of. So we used to have, back when it was just kind of one portion of the Bend Ale Trail and it was all 24 breweries, you only had to complete 10 of the 24 to get, and you would get a silicone pint glass that I completed the Bend Ale Trail. When we relaunched the Bend Ale Trail and expanded it into 7 different territories, the new pricing is now, we work with a glass manufacturer based out of Germany, actually, who makes these mini pint glasses. I don't know if y'all can see them, but each one has the logo for the territory that they complete. And
okay.
If they complete all 7 territories, then they get a taper tray.
Wow.
is not easy for them to take back in a suitcase, but luckily about 85% of our traffic is drive-in traffic. So, but you know, and then during Bendale Trail month, which is the month of November, and we chose November because it's historically the slowest month for tourism. So we have a special marketing campaign around that. This year, the new prize, and I don't have it in front of me because we just got them in, but they're glass. They look like German drinking boots.
Oh yes, yeah.
Das Boot. And then so that's kind of the prize for this year that you get in addition to these just for coming during the month of November and completing Bendale Trail month. And then we also do, as part of the survey, encourage people to take that. We do a giveaway every year, and we've done some things like win beer for a year, or brew beer with Larry Sador, who is the brewmaster of Crux, which is probably one of Ben's most famous breweries. And we've experimented with stuff like that, but really going back to what everybody has already said, try and keep it simple, right? And so for us, that means like thinking about inventory management, capacity of the visitor center staff, the visitor experience, and also our marketing materials, our collateral. We don't want to have to keep updating that on a consistent basis.
Good point.
Matt, we have a few more questions here. One from Kara for Kristin. Curious about how the give back element of the Timber Trail works, how it's organized.
Yeah, sure. They set up a series of volunteer events, trail work parties, essentially throughout the spring, summer, and fall season, throughout the length of the trail. So one thing about this particular trail is that the concept came about before anyone knew if there was actually going to be enough trails that could be connected on the ground. And in fact, the whole concept came about thinking that we would be envisioning like a hut system up and down the Cascades. But when we started digging in, we found all of these basically historic trails, some that were in better shape than others, and some that weren't linked. So not all of the trail segments on the Oregon Timber Trail are linked yet. So all the trail work parties are really to go out to those more remote locations, many of them on U.S. Forest Service land, and they're trail clearing, they're improving the trail, they're installing signage, they're really just rolling up their sleeves and having people who care about seeing this vision come to life, inviting them out. And some people go out and participate for multiple days at a time, 4 or 5 days. And they're out in some pretty remote places around Oregon. So it's promoted through their newsletter, their social media account, and then there's a summary of what they're doing on their website if you want to check that out, the OregonTimberTrail.org.
Great. This question is probably for Nate and for Sandy. What have you found to be the most effective marketing channels? Do you have a sense of where people tend to pick up Passport the most, print or digital?
Oh man, that's kind of as the Bendale Trail has aged, that's definitely changed. The consistent that we find more than anything else is word of mouth, and that goes back to just creating a good experience, right? I think something around 60% last I checked of people first heard of the Bendale Trail through word of mouth, which is, as a marketer, you're like, that's not very, but it's also good because you've created something that people want to be a part of, and that people want to talk about and bring their friends on. From that, it's shifted from, we used to do a lot of PR and more traditional marketing. We used to have some TV commercials, some radio ads, some print ads, and a lot of that has just shifted to digital. Most recently, we've found influencer marketing to be very effective. We've seen about a 950% return on our investment in influencer marketing, specifically related to the Bendale Trail campaign. So you just got to kind of keep your hand on the pulse. Where are you're looking at your target demographics, where they're engaging most, what type of media they're consuming, how they're consuming. The other thing that we've noticed as we create assets for this, we know that for example, the latest data that's coming out around videos is that 15-second videos or shorter are about on average 23% more engaging and effective than anything longer than 15 seconds. So we've been creating a lot of 15-second and shorter videos because folks just don't have the capacity, the attention span, or the want to watch anything longer than 15 seconds. So we just launched a new stop motion Bendale Trail video that's all about things to do in Bend, and it ends with beer because, again, going back to that responsibility piece, it's about come to Bend, do all these fun things, play outdoors, and then end the day with beer. Don't make beer part of everything you do, but do the Bendale Trail at the end of the day kind of thing.
And for us up here in Bellingham and Whatcom County, we're finding social media, our newsletter. We have a kind of a loyal list of travelers that like to get our newsletter. And so for those subscribers, and we have a special set of newsletter recipients who like certain things, whether they travel with a pet or whether they like beer or whether they like art. So we aim right at them, but social media has been our big one, and TikTok.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Speaking of short videos, yeah, for sure.
TikTok has been fantastic for us. So
I do just want to put a little plug in for the fact that people do, certain target audiences still really like the hard copy stuff. And yeah, there was a survey done not too long ago, especially with cyclists and road cyclists in particular, and they really like their hard copy maps. So yeah, there are those people, not saying it's the most effective to inspire them, but once they decide they want to do it, they really like having something in their hands, right?
Yeah, I'll add on to that just to say we just recently launched the Cascade Gravel Scenic Bikeway, and it's a collection of gravel routes. It's the first one in the Pacific Northwest that we're aware of. That's a curated collection of gravel specific routes that are, our data shows that nobody's road cycling anymore. Gravel cycling is great for our destination management efforts to get people dispersed throughout the forest. We've been working closely with the Forest Service and with an organization called Dirty Free Hub, who they're kind of the de facto experts on everything gravel cycling. And so they've curated the routes, everything. But we recently printed this gravel adventure field guide, and it is flying off the shelves faster than anything that we can imagine. But everything's got little maps, little sort of like the cue sheets and the maps that Kristin had shown for the Oregon Scenic Bikeways program. And then everything has a QR code so that they can pull up Ride with GPS or their favorite other GPS apps. We've got 3 options for them, and they can load those cue sheets to their phone because everybody's using a phone to navigate, or their Garmin or whatever now. And so yeah, Kristin, the print stuff is still, we actually just sent a Ben Dale Trail print to add off to print for 1859, 1889 magazines. So that's still definitely part of it too, but the print stuff is still popular for sure.
Cool, thanks, Nate. I think we had a few more questions, Mike, in the chat. Let's see.
Nope, I think that's all the questions that we had. We had one question that was asked twice.
Oh, perfect.
Kristin put a link in there for the Oregon Timber Trail to learn more about it.
Excellent, folks. Well, we have 6 minutes left. I mean, I have this opportunity to talk to the panelists in front of the audience, but we also got to chat before. Panelists, is there any questions that you would like to ask each other? Sandy, is there anything that you'd like to ask Nate about the Ben Dale Trail, or Kristin Dahl? I know you're just starting with your passports, and you don't have a lot of metrics or have a lot of time for evaluations, but anything you'd like to ask, since we have the time
and
for
it's not about their passport, but how do I order the Gravel Adventure Field Guide?
So you can, there are tons of ways. You can just go to graveladventurefieldguide.com is probably the easiest way. And we worked with a designer who's actually based out of Colorado, who's made these for a few other communities as well. And it just so happened to coincide with our launch of the Cascades Gravel Scenic Bikeway. So the field guide you can order online. There it is, a charge to order it online, or you can come down to Bend and pick it up for free and do the Ben Dale Trail. There
we go. Thank you.
Okay, my question's for Nate too. When are you doing the non-alcoholic beer?
Oh, good question.
Oh yeah, it's something we keep talking about now because every brewery is making an NA beer now. So one of the cool things that we have an opportunity to do in the app is highlight a different beer from each brewery, and we've started to highlight NA beers throughout the app. And then, yeah, I mean, we just had somebody come to us the other day and said, hey, when are you guys going to start the coffee trail? Apparently Bend has like the most coffee shops per capita in the state of Oregon. And I was like, huh, I don't know. But yeah, somebody was asking us about seltzer the other day, and I was like, well, we could add, but the NA thing is something that we're paying close attention to, and definitely thinking about how to integrate that into the Ben Dale Trail. We just did a reprint of all of our passports. So again, like dealing with print collateral and how we incorporate changes in the middle of the year. But if you have ideas, let's chat.
Sure. Well, I don't see any other questions in the Q&A or the chat. Double checking now. No?
Nope.
All right. Well, any last words of advice, panelists? Mike?
I just want to thank you all. This is a great conversation. It's really exciting to see all the different things happening over down in Bend and of course in Bellingham. And so thank you so much for joining us today.
Cool. Thank you, panelists, and thank you everyone in our audience today. Stay tuned next month in September for our next edition of the Tourism Skill Shop. More information to come on that at the beginning of September. Stay tuned and you'll see more information about that in the industry newsletter. And have a nice August. Enjoy your rest of your summer. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.